Hi, this is Nick Hamilton, and this is Motorsport Radio.
Hello and welcome to Touring Car Talk. My name is Lester, and on this week's show we will be looking back at a very special event in the BTCC's history. A Diamond Double race took place at Snetterton, if you didn't know, and we'll be telling you all about what happened and how it unravelled and what the touring cars can do for future to perhaps save itself if it at all needs to do so. We'll have your suggestions on that later. And also, we'll be talking about the state of TCR UK and how healthy it is. And we'll be getting, again, your comments on that a bit later. But joining me to unravel all the latest controversies from the BTCC in the brilliant Diamond Double weekend. I suppose we'll only just decide whether it was brilliant later in the show, but please welcome Phil Kinch from, amongst other websites, the Checkered Flag, Motorsport Radio, and basically everywhere. You're omnipresent at the moment, Phil Kinch. And, yes. And also, please welcome back onto Touring Car Talk as well, Stuart Richards as well, a touring car journalist, specialist, expert, and lover of underground train maps as well, also for the Checkered Flag as well. So hello and welcome to you both again. So yeah, 3 races and one extremely overhyped, maybe, double race, which wasn't quite a double race, but it ended up being called a Diamond Double race. We'll get to that third race at Snetterton later on. I suppose, though, coming into the big weekend at Snetterton, your thoughts on it, guys? What were you sort of expecting, if anything? Did you have any expectations? Because at the last round, we did see a bit of a renaissance for the Subaru, didn't we?
Yes, I think it's quite sort of clear. There was all the controversy and the talk, I think, of the Subaru and its performance. The series has had its summer break, and also it's had the tyre test at Snetterton as well. So I think it was a case of, situation normal almost for the BTCC. It's regrouped. They've had their summer holiday. They've had their tyre test, and it's been at Snetterton as normal as well. So it's, what can the guys do? I think in the build-up to it all, everyone was expecting sort of 35 to 38 degrees temperatures from all the weather apps that are being posted around on social media. And then all of a sudden, here comes the rain, which we've been missing for several weeks.
And a lot of it.
Oh, very much, yeah, and that sort of turned things topsy-turvy. And I'm going to be honest, I'm not sure which sort of weather gods Alan Gale, pays or prays to, or as he does, but when he wants it, he's got it. And I tell you what, he definitely did a good job on this one, because the rain gave them, the guys, the teams, the drivers, a lot to sort of get their heads around with setup and extracting the best out of the cars. And then on top of that, there was also, driving the cars without ballast as well, to sort of challenge them. So I'll be honest, I was sort of looking at it, right, school's back in, let's see who's behaving, let's see who's improved. And Snetterton's normally the sort of general guide for that, for how the second half's going to go. So I was looking forward to it. I can't say I have any complaints on it.
I mean, coming into this weekend, I suppose, it was, I think, by far, guys, the most talked about and anticipated race because of the slight tweak to the calendar, albeit the third and final race at Snetterton was just a bit longer. It wasn't technically double length, but it was. It made a bit of a refreshing change, I'd say, from a calendar which had remained reliably solid for a good number of years now, and that is set to change next year. We'll tell you more if you don't know later. Yeah, from your point of view, though, Stuart, I mean, what were you particularly expecting? Anything? Fireworks, drama, handbags everywhere, more controversy than usual coming into the round.
I'm going to say double the length of the race, hopefully double the controversy, but it was probably just the same amount as there would be in a normal race. But when I thinking about it with the sort of like the zero ballast, leading up to it, I was thinking, yeah, that's going to be great. It's going to get all the cars all together, hopefully, and sort of like put it on a level playing field. But then I sort of remembered that every start of the season there is a race like that. Obviously not double distance, but just so I thought it's zero ballast. Every top team is going to be near the front somehow. well, somehow because they spent more money for development, so that they worked up there. But
so did you think potentially it was potentially a bit overhyped coming into the season? That yes, it was a good idea to do it. It's a good idea to do it, but maybe like a lot of people maybe were thinking that this is probably just going to get ruined by plenty of safety cars, and the field's going to get so strung out, and everybody's just going to be reminded of why they don't have long races anymore in touring cars.
Yeah, half and half. As I say, leading up to the event, I was sort of like looking forward to see, hopefully, because NGTC racing the touring cars, as long as it's been there, has always been great, and even in the shorter races, things do sort of like string out a bit. So that was kind of to be expected in the longer race. The gaps at the front weren't as big as expecting. Like the top three, we'll talk about later, that they were so close together. But it didn't deliver the overhype that, as you say, if it was overhyped, that was promised. But that's about it, really.
Okay, fair enough. And the actual race weekend itself, then, and we had 2 qualifying sessions, didn't we, Phil?
Yes, so you had the first qualifying session, which determined the race for race number 1 for Sunday. So the guys running with ballast from the top 10 places in the championship, as they would normally do. And then you had a 15-minute session, which was the second qualifying session, where all of the drivers ran ballast-free. In some respects, that also, I saw it almost as a get-out-of-jail-free card, because with the second session, because normally, you know, the end of race 2, you have the draw for race 3. Somebody gets picked from positions 6 to 12, and you mix the grid up a bit, and obviously see if someone else who hasn't had a chance or has had a decent day can maybe catch a win or a start from pole position. Having the second qualifying session with the zero ballast almost sort of resets things anyway, from my sort of perspective as I was seeing it. So, for example, Jack Goff, sterling effort after his problems at Croft, where he was, languishing at the back of the field for some inexplicable reason, and yet comes to Snetterton, he breaks the lap record in qualifying for the first qualifying session with ballast on board, and then goes and sets pole position again in the ballast-free session. So it's fairly obvious to me that whatever work has been done on Jack's car and the other Eurotech cars, because Matt Simpson was back up the front as well after his Oulton Park win. Whatever the guys have been able to do over the summer break definitely brought them back up the front. So I like the idea, I must admit. I think, the only other time the guys run ballast free is race 1 at Brands Hatch at the start of the season. And at that point, the cars have had some running. They've had the official test and everyone's sort of getting to understand them. I don't think it's a bad idea to have a second sort of ballast free race during the year, because then you can see development takes place. Everyone's trying to improve the cars as they go. So I like it, but I definitely feel there was sort of a bit of a reset button for the third race at the same time.
All right then, well, let's get started and talking about race number 1 then, guys. And it was, I think I am accurate in describing it as a bit of a miserable, wet and windy race for the visual radio listeners. You may even be able to see some of the fantastic Jacob Eadbury images provided from the Snetterton weekend. But yeah, it was Sam Tordoff who donned a beautiful, rather dubbed, I think, the Pink Panther car by David Addison on the commentary for the anniversary race, and it did look quite stunning. I would say one of my favourites. I think there was a couple of different one-off liveries as well as the Subaru, all grey or black and white cars. Well, they were grey really. They weren't exactly black and white. They were all greyed out. And the first race. A couple of notes that I made because I'm really efficient like that, as everyone knows. But yeah, no, I did notice actually that Rory Butcher very early on in the race, and as David Addison was screaming about, did make a fantastic manoeuvre around the outside of Andrew Jordan on the second lap. That was particularly noteworthy manoeuvre. It was Tom Ingram who was unfortunately splashing around and coasted into a DNF for him. Also, Collard retired at the side of the road. Quite a lot of, some people think potentially, I think, like rain-related retirements, with potentially water getting into the wiring, and Ingram had apparently an engine wiring loom changed on the Saturday, and maybe that was part of his issue potentially. But yeah, for most of race number one, we did see, and it was, I suppose, fitting, really, Stuart, that on this special weekend we saw one of the all-time classic finishes to a touring car race. It was Ash Sutton and Jack Goff side by side for almost all of the last part of the race, for at least the entirety of the last lap. It was a stunning finish. I think Sutton got ahead of Goff by the last corner, coming out of the last corner, but Goff got a brilliant drag down to the line, just with like meters to go, took the lead and the win. Fantastic, classic.
That's it. It looked so easy for Goff at the start of the race, and you wouldn't have expected that finish if you turned off partway through. But that, it sort of like brings up the Subaru Boost debate again. Look at how easy Jack Goff blasted past the Subaru. I shouldn't have brought it up. I know I shouldn't have.
No.
But it's
maybe it was just a different setup.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah. I don't know whether it's been the closest touring car finish, British touring car finish. Phil will probably correct me on that, but it's certainly got me on my edge of the seat, and it was disappointing that wasn't the finish to the third race, because that would have just been perfect for. It nearly was, but
they've
advertised.
Yeah. I mean, we nearly did see. Not to if you haven't seen the three races. Yeah, whatever. You're going to hear some spoilers here, but I think all three races were quite close and very exciting as well, which is usually the case in touring cars. But I think race one, the end of race one especially, was just a bit more exciting than usual, Phil.
To look at the first lap, like Stuart was saying, Jack Goff, you think was going to walk this, and you sort of turn the telly off and go, no, that's it, he's done it. But I'll give Ash his due, and as we were all fully aware of the problems the Subaru's had this year as well, apart from McCroft, he clawed back an incredible lead, and to be honest, it was impressive. If you'd have seen the race at the first lap, you'd have thought it was a guaranteed Jack Goff win. However, Ash Sutton managed to claw back a quite healthy lead from Jack, especially in the wet conditions as well, whilst cars were spinning off left, right and centre. And by the end of the race, as you said, Ash was ahead coming out the last corner, and Jack was able to out-drag him to the line in a very, very close finish. Unfortunately, memory escapes me, Stuart. I'll go and do my homework to find out the closest BTCC finish for you. Unless, of course, the viewers out there know one closer than this one, of course. But yeah, it was a great race. Lots of action, lots of overtaking. Like I was saying before, the conditions played a big part. It was a very wet track. So it's one that, you're always going to have cars either going off, retiring, or cars that just work better in the wet than they do on the dry. So, yeah, a brilliant first race. Kudos to Ash, kudos to Jack Goff. And, kudos to the guys that finished, to be honest, as well. Not an easy one to get through, but a very exciting race nonetheless.
Exactly. And your overall thoughts, Stuart, on that first race there?
I'd say same as Phil, really. Because watching the start that Ash Sutton made, really sort of trying to find the correct word. It's watching the demon start that Ash Sutton made. It was absolutely fantastic, and to say he would have deserved the victory would have been a bit unfair on Jack Goff, but he managed to get it at the end perfectly safely and fairly.
Yeah, and I think maybe we were the real winners from that race one, to be honest, as much as the drivers would like to potentially think so. But that was a good opening first race, I would say, and that finish certainly, I'm going to say, definitely went down in the history books as being one of the greatest, I would say. Who needs Super Tourers when you've got racing like that, and everybody just switches off. There you go. Anyway, on to race 2 though. So there was pre-race drama, as it looked like Jack Goff was, I think it was, he was about to be the first person ever to make history, to become the first person to take, in the modern era of touring cars, pole position in race 1, 2 and 3. But pre-race drama, as he had some issues and the car wasn't able to make it to the grid, and he ended up starting from the pit lane. Big shame, Stuart.
Like I say, it also ruined his chance to possibly even become only the third driver to win all 3 races in one day as well. And you could see, we'll probably talk about this later in the second race, how Tom Ingram got from the back of the grid up to third, and Jack Goff only really sort of like, what's the word, he sort of, he stalled around about mid pack. He couldn't get any further, probably due to the ballast that he got from the first race. And it's just the wrong time, and completely ruined that race for him.
Yeah, it was a bit of a shame to have that put a bit of a dampener, metaphorically anyway, and physically, and because I think race 2 was still a bit damp. It wasn't exactly as wet as race 1, was it, Phil? But it was still.
No, more of a drying track, really, for race 2. I think there was a bit more of a gamble taken. But like Stuart said, Tom Ingram's drive is noteworthy. He, from the back to third place, and something that a lot of the sort of fallout from the weekend has been is that Tom and Speedworks have found a way to get the Toyota to work with the varying levels of ballast that can be awarded during the season, either winning races, leading the championship, or being lower down in the top 10. So applause, to be honest, to Tom. He's really proving he's really fighting for the title this year. His drives have been really another level almost. I think last year he was denied the title because he made a lot of mistakes in the second half of the season. So definitely, a much improved performance. Brilliant for him in race 2. Ash, again, very dominating in race 2. Once he was in the lead, he was able to control from the front, and he wasn't really able to sort of be challenged, I think is the best way to put it. So again, another ideal race for him, and sort of just, I think, a bit of a showing of what race 1 could have been if he'd have not been sort of fallen behind Jack off as he had done. I'm going to put a shout out for the BTC Norlin boys, because the first 2 races of the day seemed to go pretty well for them, considering the wet conditions and the fact they weren't at the tyre test in the summer break either. So both Daniel Lloyd and Chris Smiley were definitely up the front, and I think again it just shows how reliable and how quick the older version of the Honda Civic still is, compared to the newer one that's out there with Matt Neal and Dan Camish. Again, Dan Camish taking another podium. It's not going to be long before he has his first win, so he's definitely going to be well within a shout of taking a win before the end of the year. I feel that, to be honest. He's not making too many mistakes, but he's being sensible about his driving as well. So yeah, Ash Sutton, Dan Camish, Tom Ingram, and at the same time, the championship is sort of changing backwards and forwards with each race as it went through the day as well. So yeah, it was really good stuff.
Certainly was.
Can we go back to race 2 quickly? Sorry.
Yeah.
I've got to give a special mention out to Josh Cook as well, because I think one more lap, I think he would have got Ash. If he didn't pass, was it Dan Camish when the safety car came out at the last few laps?
Yes, it was. Yeah.
Because he felt like if he didn't hand the position back, he would have been penalised and he would have been dropped back even further. I feel like if he stayed where he was, he definitely had the speed over Ash. So
yeah, because there was
Josh Cook has been a revelation so far. So
yeah, certainly he has the talent. The safety car in race number 2, I think, was. They were racing all the way down the back straight, and then they raced up, as you know, the race up to the safety car boards and the flags, which came I'd say just after Cook had made that pass.
I was going to say it was the safety car sign, or the board was at the Brundle hairpin, to start the Brundle hairpin,
and he was at least sort of halfway side by side, I think. Yeah,
that was the point. I think. Looking back, I think Josh might have been safe, but obviously you didn't really want to play it.
Yeah.
No, they're safe. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and like you said, Stuart, he did provide a good end to the second race as well, because he was. I think we had like 1 lap left or 2 laps left after the safety car came in, and he was charging quite hard after Ash Sutton for that.
It was shades of the third race at Oulton Park earlier in the year. When I was there, I was watching him chasing down Adam Morgan, and just one more lap he would have got him, but it's racing, isn't it?
Yeah, and again, it's still, put on a good show for us as well, because we were thinking, oh my God, is this going to be like a repeat of race 1 again? Oh my God, but it wasn't quite, but it nearly was. But yeah, on to race number 3 then, and wow, there was the big diamond double, a double points race then, the biggest touring car race that there's been in many years, in many different ways, and it was thankfully dry conditions. And yes, there was, unfortunately, almost immediately, I think on lap number 1 or lap 2, this was announced, Ash Sutton a 30-second stop-go penalty for apparently still having or not having his wheels on at the 3-minute board or something like that, or the mechanics were still working on the car within the 3-minute window, which you're not allowed to do. So he received a massive penalty, pretty much scuppered his chances straight away. And then, of course, there was the incident with Brett Smith and Tom Oliphant, who tangled, and they both slammed into the barriers. That brought a safety car out. And then on lap 8, it looked like we was going to have drama because it started to rain. And then, but it didn't rain hard. It was sort of like, it was like raining in like parts of the circuit, and then, but it was okay in the end. And then it was the third race. If you've not seen it, Matt Neal won, and it was. I would say now coming into this race, I would personally say that I was expecting it to be a little bit of a normal touring car race, in that it was just like potentially a bit kind of overhyped, and I get why. Obviously, it's the Diamond Double, and it's a celebration of the 60 years and stuff. But I thought maybe either one or two things are going to happen. It's going to be a bit boring, or it's going to be the double length race as it was billed. Not quite, but it was just going to get taken up and sort of ruined by safety cars, and that didn't quite happen either. So yeah, it was still a good race though. I just thought that race 1 at that weekend was the most exciting race of them. But Phil, your thoughts?
I'll be honest, I'm really happy that Matt Neal took the win.
Why? Considering
that Matt originally, if you go back into the books of history for the BTCC, and we go back to Super Touring, there's second mention again. Donington Park 1999, when he took the first ever win back then for an independent overall, and happily relieved Mr. Gow of £250,000. It's to have Matt win it, I think, is ideal, and the reaction I've seen on social media is a very popular win for Matt. He's been pushing really hard with a new car this year, developing that alongside, as we were saying, with Dan Camish and everything, and he was really up for it. Okay, Jack Goss on pole. Again, he was leading from the front, but it just didn't seem to be sort of Jack's race almost. Matt seemed to have the measure and to catch him up. So to have someone who's been in the BTCC so long, who is, I want to say, part of the furniture, part of the foundation,
well, he is.
Part of the framework. Yeah. He's been there since 1991. So yeah, it was great to see Matt Neal taking the win. Again, Jack chasing him all the way. I know something we were discussing before the show began was all 3 races, had a finishing gap of something like a couple of tenths. Apart from the first race, that was just 1 tenth between first and second places. So again, 3. The first 2 races pretty exciting. The third one, okay, yeah, a really good race. As as we're saying, the first one was the better one, I believe, as well. But it was just great to see Matt on the top step again. It's been a while since he's had wins and been in championship contention. And there's the whole double points part of this as well. 0 ballast, double points. The incentive is there. If you can claw back some ground in the championship, and as the series sort of leaves Snetterton to move on to Rockingham in a couple of weeks' time, it's a lot closer. You've got a different championship leader in Tom Ingram. Colin Turkington scored points, but again, he slipped down a place. So it's the sort of musical chairs of the championship have done its trick. The series has done its trick of keeping it as energised and popular as possible. And yeah, like I say, great to see Matt winning. Great to see the field, making it through a much longer race. Possibly something we could see again soon. Not sure.
Yeah, you make a fantastic point about Matt Neal, and I don't think that there would have been, if anybody was a neutral, perhaps like myself, and I don't want to put words in your YouTube mouths, but I certainly am a neutral anyway. I don't have any particular favourite. I don't hate anybody in touring cars, so I look at a race and I just want to see excitement. Basically, I just want to see everybody put on as good a show as possible, and I'm really happy for anybody to win as long as it's clean and fair. And it was a good race. But yeah, for Matt Neal to do it, and considering his first season was, 92? As you
91.
say, 91.
Yeah.
So that goes right back into, so many eras past. That's a long time ago. And Plato's first season, considering, I think, was 97?
Yeah,
as well, and they're both very similar ages. I think Neil is 51 years old, I think he is, and Plato is 50, if I remember rightly. Apologies if that's not right, but
yeah, I'll let you figure that one out. I don't know.
And at that sort of age, to be honest, to still be at that level, at the top of British motor racing. At 51 years old, still competing at that level, showing the kids how it's done, winning, and always being, there or thereabouts in almost every single race, in almost every single championship, every single year. It's such a massive achievement, and he's been doing it for longer than anybody else. Hasn't he? So, yeah, Stuart.
See, I often do think about that, but then I think about what age did Mario Andretti retire when he was in Indy cars? He must have been in his 50s.
I don't think he actually has retired yet. I don't think he's not officially.
No, he has. So his official last Indy car season was 1994.
Oh, okay.
And he took his last win at Phoenix. So, I'm not that I'm a bookworm at all. But yeah, Mario had a fantastic career, and the same for Emerson Fittipaldi as well. So
are we saying that Matt Neal is like is like Mario Andretti then?
Do you know what? Mario's the sort of nice guy of Indy cars, so I wouldn't go too far from there. I'll go with that.
There's worse people to be compared to, I suppose. Yeah. So.
Yeah.
And his sons could be successful too, as well. You never know.
Yes, he's got a very successful racing family now, and he supports them over various paddocks. I think Henry races in the mini challenge.
He's in Mini Challenge series
on the I think on the GT bill as well, and that's. Good to see, I would say, Stuart. Your thoughts on the on Matt Neal winning and anything else from race 3?
Well, I put a post on Instagram sort of congratulating Matt Neal, and I said he's probably the most apt winner, along with Jason Plato, to win a celebration of the touring car race. It
would have been fantastic to see them both up there, though, wouldn't it?
Yeah. I said that as well. It was such a shame that Jason's been having the Subaru problems, and if the car was as it was at Croft, who knows what we might have seen. It might probably a classic humdinger battle like they had in, was it 2006 when Jason was in the Seat and Matt in the Integra, and they knock each other out at the final corner. But I found out near the end of the race, the top two was Jack Goff and Tom Ingram started thinking more about the points for the championship when you expected it more to be a straight dead race to win. But the double points obviously became too much of a sort of like an incentive for them, so they obviously don't want to risk that. And I found that probably the most exciting battle of the track was for 6th place. I don't know whether you two will agree, because for lap after lap there was about 7 different cars or 8 cars trying to go for 6th place.
Yeah, there was. I think is that the one after? Now I wasn't paying special attention, I have to admit, but was that the one after the big gap, the massive gap which David Addison referred to? Then there was that big gaggle of cars. Is it that one? Yeah.
It was like lap after lap. There was just a car going for 6th place, different 6th place driver every time. But it's sad that it ended with Chris Smiley going off of suspension damage and Dan Camage going off grass as well. But it's up until there was contact made, it was probably the most exciting part of the whole race.
What would you agree with that, Phil? What would your assessment be?
I've got to say, although we had the close race, I mean, in all three races, you had the close fights for the lead and the podium positions. The midfield battles, and in all three races, I think produced more interest. I want to sort of avoid that. Oh yes, it's everyone going back to school sort of thing after summer holiday. But there was definitely the feel of right, we're back to racing, we're back to what we want to have been doing. And the midfield placings definitely had a lot of action happening through all three races. Like I said, Motorbase, BTCC Norlin, the Sicily Motorsport, all three Mercedes, to name a few. They were all involved, looking to score points, looking to get back up on the board. And definitely, I agree with Stuart, with race 3. It was definitely towards the end of that race, the guys were thinking, right, championship, double points. You'd love to see everyone go hell for leather, racing as hard as possible all the way to the last lap. But in this day and age, when you've got an opportunity to go, I can score 20 points instead of 10 points, drivers will start to think that way as well. One guy I'm going to point out again, who I feel is incredibly unlucky to my right as we speak, is Sam Tordoff. So much promise this year in qualifying with the car, and yet when it came to it, and what I thought would be an ideal event for Sam that last weekend, just wasn't able to produce the goods. He took a couple of top 6 finishes, which was great to see. But Sam's capable of race winning. Racecraft himself, he's capable of getting wins out of cars, the MG, the BMW. So a big opportunity missed, and unfortunately he's one of the guys that I feel has sort of lost out on this. But yeah, completely agree with Stuart. The midfield, as you were saying as well, Lester, the midfield racing at certain points was more interesting than the guys going for the race lead.
Yeah, I did get that impression as well watching race number 3, but I think it was just the way maybe I watch touring car racing. I think my attention's all over the place. I'm watching like live timing usually, and you're there and you're thinking how this is all going to play out, and I'm keeping my eyes on Twitter as well, which I shouldn't be because that's not healthy for you. But yeah, and usually because there's just so many cars now, you just literally can't. I mean, if ITV can't keep their eyes on 30 odd cars, how are we supposed to pay attention to everything? So it's difficult, which is a shame for some people further down the grid, I think, who are having fantastic fights, who might be having the fight of their life, but it never even we don't even see it. It'll be for like 28th place, and who cares, basically? Nobody sees it.
With that, at the end of the points positions, which was around about 15th, at the flag, when they had the Jason Platon, there was a whole gaggle of cars, about 4 or 5 in a row, all coming towards the line.
And there was almost a photo finish, wasn't there?
Yeah, almost a photo finish in that. We almost had Sam Smelt scoring points for the first time. But shout out to Bobby Thompson for scoring his first top 10 result.
He smelt those points, didn't he?
Yeah,
Thank you.
Hey. But with a few laps to go, Sam Smelt was in the point scoring positions, and there was no mention of that until, sadly, he obviously dropped out because some of the cars got past, because he was in front of Dan Camish and Jason Plato, and they would have breezed past him at some point. But shout out to Bobby Thompson, as I say.
Exactly, and also a mention as well to Dan Welch, who made his return back to touring cars after I'd say at least a year.
Year and a half.
Yeah. Wow.
I forgot to mention in the second race, Antwerpen Hills for scoring a top 10 finish as well.
Yes, back again.
And mentioned in the AMD press release, they sort of said that if third race grid reverse, who knows what might have happened. So
yeah,
all fantastic drivers that you're naming here. There aren't any really terrible drivers. That's the thing in touring cars in 2018 and. Versus, 2018 grid versus something like 1990, for example, just as a random example, you could easily pick out a good few. Yes, the grid wasn't nowhere near as big. I don't know, but I don't think. But you could probably pick out at least a few drivers who you could easily lose off that grid and not even notice, and then see the standards raise in general. But
was 1990 still when they were in the class system, though?
So 1990 was when you had 2 classes. You had the last year of the Group A Sierras, because effectively nothing else in Group A racing in the UK was able to keep up the Sierras. And it was also the first year where you had the 2 litre class introduction before it became its own in 91. So yeah, this is when you had the Vauxhall Cavalier versus the fleet, I think it's fair to say, of the BMW M3s at the time. So but yeah, definitely agree with Lester in the fact of you could, back then you could say, yes, you've got several top drivers in each of that class, and in each class in the field, whereas this year you've got a quality field of drivers. But again, my next thought following that is...
Oh, no, we want to get to know what his next thought is. Is he back?
No. Yeah. So 2018, you've got a quality field of drivers. However, my next thought is they're looking to reduce it down to a 26-car grid.
Potentially. He's not confirmed
potentially, that. No, it's not confirmed, but potentially you're looking... So the question is... No, again, right?
Yeah, no, you're back. Go on. We was about to reduce our panel down to 2. But...
so yeah, if the reduction takes place to 26 cars, as Gal has been alluding to, then you're looking at an even more higher quality field with a lesser
on paper
amount of seats available.
That's in theory what he wants to happen.
As I say, I was thinking about the sort of like the grid size, how they want to reduce it. Obviously, it's not going to happen, but it might happen. And how certain teams, they run 4 cars like Team Hard, but every single one of their drivers have worked out there. Obviously, Dan Welsh only came in for Snetterton. But he's a good driver as well. And Mike Bushell's been impressive in the Clios, and he's been the best Volkswagen driver so far this year. And obviously, Michael Caine and Bobby Thompson, they've got history in other categories. And with Subaru losing Josh Price, you can see how easy it is to cut down a team, and that's probably the way that they might, if they are to reduce grids, that's probably how they'll go away in the future. Say, okay, you've got a maximum of two drivers per team, and that'll cut the grid by quite a bit.
Yeah, definitely.
All right then. Well, looking at the standings then from the Diamond Double onwards, and first of all, I was keeping an eye on the Dunlop #ForeverForward award. Do we still pay attention to that? Is that just a purely promotional thing?
No, they talk about it during the races. Yes. They like to see how many places are gained by drivers from the back.
I suppose, yeah, but I mean they are paid to.
And it's being led by 2 drivers which have left the championship now as well.
Yes. Number 1 on the Forever Forward standings is Tom Boardman. On 78, Adam Morgan on 76, Jake Hill on 74. I don't know if these have actually been. I'm presuming these have been updated since Snetterton. I'm just going to presume they're on the Touring Car website right now as of Tuesday night. Josh Cook in 4th, Tom Ingram in 5th, Ollie Jackson in 6th, Senna Proctor, Rob Austin, Stephen Jelly, and Rob Collard. Imagine if that was the championship standings, but it's not.
Yes.
And do we any thoughts on that at all, on those 10? No,
not particularly, really.
Okay. I was just like you were saying. I was just going to say, 2 of the drivers that are there, Tom Boardman and Jake Hill, obviously aren't anymore. They're sort of out of things for the season, as far as we're aware. And when you've got races, Tom Ingram being a great example, he retired from race 1 and then drove through from the back of the grid to 3rd, in the following race. That deserves recognition, I feel, so that the Forever Forward award this year is a good idea. Personally, though, it looks, if we're looking at if the race is returning to this format of having a 20-lap race at Snetterton as race 3, 0 ballast, double points, etc. My thought on this is award the driver the Jack Sears Trophy. Make it a blue ribboned event, which is something the BTCC could do with. They've proven they can last 20 laps. It's it gets the crowds in, gets the fans in, gets the interest. The Jack Sears Trophy at the moment goes to the highest placed non-podium finishing driver. Yeah. As I understand it this year. Keep it simple. The guy who wins the Diamond Double race, the 20-lap race there, give them the Jack Sears Trophy. The same they award the Vanderbilt Trophy to the Indy 500 winner, the Peter Brock Trophy to the Bathurst Sales. Go with that sort of thinking is where I would like to see it, I'll be honest.
Or maybe another idea that I'd previously thought of about I think we were talking about it previously on what solutions maybe we could come up with, Phil, to make the show even better if such a thing was ever possible. And it might not be because it's already great.
Mm.
But a solution that I thought of previously is like the, as I used to call it, the overtaking league, which is what it really is, isn't it? It's not forever. I mean, if you ask anybody who's never, not bothered with touring cars, the overtaking league, you what? Anyway, so how about awarding maybe pole position to the driver who's made the most overtakes in the previous 2 races, and give them pole position for race 3 instead of picking it out of a hat?
Not a bad idea. Definitely not a bad idea, because you're rewarding someone who's worked hard to make their way through the grid, which is always good. And that also normally makes for an exciting race as well, because that gets the attention of David Addison and Tim Harvey, and often causes a lot of excitement. So again, not a bad idea to follow.
Yeah, it keeps them racing, I suppose. Even if they're for 30th place, some car that's like falling apart, it's been in the barriers 3 times, been in the pits 4 times, then you could still potentially make up a couple of places, and who knows, or maybe do it via some other way. I think doing it on track in a race is a better way than just pulling a number out of a hat, which is good for TV. I know ITV like that sort of thing, but it's just on the wrong side of being a bit gimmicky, isn't it? So
the thing as well you have to sort of like worry about is what you're going to do from 2 downwards, because obviously to have the car that's done the most overtakes on pole and just have the rest, the previous race result behind them.
Or just have the top 6 and then have everyone else move up or something. So I don't know. It was just an idea, that a badly thought through idea. But
on a follow up to the Phil's Jack Sears Trophy idea, will be championship points be awarded for that?
See, I still like the idea of the double championship and 0 ballast, so I like those. That's my attraction to it, because you're shaking the championship up, which is what BTCC loves. It's always going to the wire every year. We know that. So the double points on offer, good idea. The 0 ballast, it's the second race of the year. They can go with that. I would keep it as it is, but like I say, just the speciality of, here is the Jack Sears Trophy, so named after the man who won, the first British Touring Car Championship back in 1958 in his own original way. Follow it on with, giving these guys that accolade as well, and just repeating it. Like the 2 examples, like I say, for me, it's more Bathurst that I follow every year. Doing a 1,000-kilometre race on an extremely tough circuit, and they get a trophy named after Peter Brock, who's one of the legends of Australian touring car racing and touring car racing worldwide. So something I felt myself is that, the BTCC has been missing a blue ribboned event like Bathurst, like the Norris Ring with DTM.
The Touring Car 1000.
I don't know so much about 1,000.
Around Cadwell.
Oh, good Lord. I can see the repair bill going through the roof straight away. I would stick with the 20-lapper. There is the possibility. There were a lot of questions online in the run-up to this. Will the cars have to change tyres? Will they need to use the larger fuel tanks, etc.? Maybe a slightly longer race. That you could have. Something I used to think was a good idea was having a 2-driver race, something similar to the old 1-hour races back in the sort of Group A days at Donington and Silverstone, where you had one driver do half an hour, the other driver did half an hour, in much more powerful cars, and they were designed to go for the endurance.
Maybe.
We know that touring cars in their various categories can do endurance racing. We've had it in Super Touring, we've had it in Group A, etc. So maybe a slightly longer race with that added extra, but then you're starting to look into finances, budget, sponsorship. You're looking for guys to find more money.
Yeah.
The repair bills go up because you're going to have drivers that think, I'm not going to get much further. I'm not in the top 15 getting the points, so I'll just, start battering a few people about potentially. So I like the idea as it is, room for development, but just my theory is hand them the Jack Sears Trophy as the outright, you've won this. This is your name on the trophy. You've worked hardest in this particular race as a one-off, and see where they go from there.
Yeah, definitely. One particularly interesting thing that could develop from potentially what you just said there, Phil, about if there was scope at all, or enough interest or enough money to do an endurance race in touring cars, Not necessarily BTCC, but yeah, you know. But maybe because the championship's so new, I'm thinking maybe TCR UK, and it's something that we'll be talking about next, and previewing the next round in the TCR UK Championship as well. But yeah, if anybody could literally do such a thing and not affect a history or an existing fan base, TCR UK literally has a blank sheet of paper. It can do an endurance race and nobody will complain. It can do it as an experiment. Nobody will complain, apart from the drivers that don't finish the race, obviously. And it could be the standout niche thing, and the thing that maybe makes it stand out from BTCC, if it ever wants to dare do such a thing. Answers on a postcard. We'll leave that question open. I think you don't have to answer it.
Oh, all right then. Okay.
I don't want to get you in trouble. I don't want to get you in trouble with the internet. So
that happens so often.
And again, you Stuart, if you don't really want to comment, you don't have to. I won't bully you into having a stance. But yeah, just before we talk about TCR UK, the driver standings then in BTCC, it is Tom Ingram then on 189 points. Colin Turkington for the in his BMW is second on 183 points, and Matt Neal shot up to third place. In his Honda, 173. Jack Goff in fourth on 172. Josh Cook in fifth. Andrew Jordan in sixth. Ash Sutton only in seventh place. Tom Chilton doing well. Got a lot of mentions on the coverage at the weekend. In eighth place. Adam Morgan in ninth. Sam Tordoff in 10th. And Dan Camish, Senna Proctor and Rob Collard. And there's a massive gap now in the championships. From something like 10th on 115 points, Sam Tordoff, to Tom Ingram on 189 points. So yeah, that will be interesting to see if the people further back can potentially claw their way up the ladder, I suppose. Because if there has been one negative thing to come out of a double points race, yes, it's good for the people who actually get a load of points, but for the people who had DNFs in the race because it was not their fault, they got punted out, then they're going to be way down in the championship because of it, and it's going to be it's a nightmare. So yeah, you're going to get a double depression basically for those drivers. Final thoughts then on the future of the old touring cars, i.e. the next round, Stuart.
I'm usually expecting the usual faces to appear near the front again. Your Tom Ingrams, your Jack Goffs, your Colin Turkingtons. Will we see a surprise as we did last year at Rockingham with James Cole taking pole and the win in the first race? Maybe, but I think we've sort of like reached the level where it's going to be the same faces at the top appearing at the front again and again. We might get a surprise result here and there, but it's unpredictable. It's the British touring cars, isn't it?
It is the British touring cars, and yeah, Phil, going into the next round, and we've got the big Diamond Double Jubilee event out of the way, if we can ever say such a thing about such a prestigious race. What are you expecting from the next round? Same as Stuart?
I think so. We're coming to the business end of the championship, and Rockingham is normally one of the venues that spices the championship up even more. So you've had the double points and zero ballast. Rockingham offers good racing, mix these things up normally. This year it's earlier, it's before Knock Hill, but it's still going to have a part to play. And also it's the last time we're going to be visiting the circuit as well, before the calendar changes for next year. So yeah, I don't think we're going to see too many surprises. I think you'll see the normal race winners at the front. Like I said, the Subaru now seems in Ash Sutton's hands at least to be back in race winning form. So I think that's at least going to feed his championship challenge more.
And on that note,
Dan Tordoff.
Oh, he's back. Sorry, yes, yeah. It seems like you.
That's all right.
Wasn't sure if you were just having a dramatic pause about keeping us in suspense about what your thoughts were. Sorry, go on, carry on.
Yeah. So hopefully, like I said before, I'm hoping Sam Tordov has a good weekend. I'm hoping he can turn it around, and the team are going to have a test. It's been revealed before Rockingham to see if they can find out what's happening with his focus. Tom Chilton, again, he's due a win as well. He's been really doing well on his second season in the Championship and fully focused at Motorbase. I still think it's anyone's game, to be honest, in the top 10. Any one of those drivers could take a race win at Rockingham or a good points finish. And again, Rockingham's going to play its part as it normally does to mix things up. So I think we're going to be in for an exciting weekend of racing again.
All right, this is the Touring Car Talk on Motorsport Radio. My name is Lester, and we will continue with more Touring Car Talk in just a moment.
BRSCC Fiesta Junior Championship racing with MRF tyres is back in action.
Awesome start, really happy with it. Thought it was going to be a close race, but I can't complain about the result. It's good for the championship.
Welcome to Snetterton for the next instalment of the 2018 BRSCC Fiesta Championship racing with MRF tyres.
I feel confident when I'm here, it just feels right.
Yeah, it was a good race.
Motorsport Radio.
Hi, I'm Jonathan Ray from the Kawasaki Racing Team.
Hi, this is Nick Hamilton.
Hi, I'm Jamie Chadwick.
Hey everyone, I'm Bradley Smith.
Hi, I'm Joanne Zacco.
Hi, I'm Bradley Wright.
Hi, I'm Seb Morris.
Hi, I'm Dan Lingford from Honda Racing, British Superbike Team, and this is Motorsport Radio.
It's Touring Car Talk, and a quick reminder that you can download this show as an audio podcast if you so wish, and take us with you. Listen to us in your car, wherever you're driving to, perhaps. So you can not only just see the visual radio version on social media, you can check it out on our website, motorsport.radio. Download the audio version either from our website, motorsport.radio, or from your favourite podcast provider, whomever that is, wherever it is, Apple, what's the other one, Android, whatever, I don't know, but yes, we are omnipresent all over the internet, and of course you can check out the links from one of many of Phil's Facebook groups, which he either owns or is an admin of as well. So yes, Phil Kinch still here with us, who is a one of many different types of journalists of different types of motorsport for the Checkered Flag and many other places, as well as Motorsport Radio as well. And yes, Stuart Richards as well, and he's back with us, and we are still talking about touring cars, but for now we're talking TCR UK. It is still around, and it is going to be bigger than it was previously. I think we can at least say that. But yes, TCR UK. So I suppose then, being the TCR guru, Phil, there's no better person to talk to about TCR UK. Funny that.
Okay. I'll take that. I understand that.
Yes. So if basically you've not been paying attention to TCR UK because you didn't think much of it, be honest. Many people don't. Then what have they been missing out on so far this season?
Okay, so Daniel Lloyd's dominating the championship.
Daniel Lloyd? He's in touring cars. Don't you mean Daniel Lloyd of BTCC?
That's the same Daniel Lloyd, yes. So he's been leading the championship. He's taken 7 wins out of 8 races so far. Things changed at Croft, where he was beaten to pole position by Ollie Taylor in his 2018 Pyro Motorsport Honda. Castle Combe was the last round of the series. Daniel Lloyd is leading the championship with a very healthy lead after taking 7 wins from the first 8 rounds. He was beaten to the race 1 win at Castle Combe by Ollie Taylor in the Pyro Motorsport Honda Civic, the 2018 car he's been driving since Brands Hatch. There was originally a bit of what was deemed a controversial move for the race win by Dan, and the stewards stepped in and reversed the position, so Ollie Taylor took his first win, as well as his first pole position there at Castle Combe. However, in the second race, the reverse grid race, Dan was able to get back onto his race-winning record and had win number 7 to his tally. To be honest, Dan is out there with the most experience of a TCR car. He drove in the TCR International Series last year for Craft Bamboo Racing. So, he's got a lot of experience here.
And also he's the TCR sort of development driver, isn't he?
He did the balance of performance tests, but to be honest, that doesn't give him much of an advantage, really, because whilst he's had a chance to drive all of the cars, the types of tests that they do don't really allow you any sort of close or hidden knowledge of the cars that you haven't driven before, really. So that's basically helped to keep his skills sharp, shall we say. Excuse me. Yeah. And then, on top of that, he's also driving for West Coast Racing, who, they've been involved in TCR since everything began back in 2014. So they have a lot of knowledge of TCR cars, and especially the cars they're running this year as well. So it's quite understandable why Dan's doing such a good job where he is. It does look a bit one-sided, but there is a good group of drivers taking part in the championship from various different series around the world that they've competed in, or various different series in the UK that many have competed in as well. So the cars are kept balanced. There is a balance of performance in place, which affects TCR series all around the world. And this keeps everything as equal as possible. There's also a compensation weight system as well, again, so you don't have the fastest cars running off into the distance, to try and keep things as equal as possible. And this weekend the series heads off to what I'm calling its one-day special, I think is the right term, because everything is taking place on Saturday in a similar vein to Formula E. So free practice, qualifying, and both the races, all at Oulton Park on the international circuit, all happening on Saturday.
Interesting. I say it's interesting because yes, I think is that just maybe because Oulton Park don't usually race on the Sunday, unless like this only
not at all. No, I understand. The voice is going here for some reason. I understand it's more to do potentially with a noise restriction regulation for Oulton Park. So, but the upside of this is that whilst the season so far, where both the races have been streamed live on Sunday, because everything's happening in one day, qualifying is being streamed live as well on Saturday as the 2 races following on. So 3 chances to see all of the TCR UK guys in action, and then the BRSCC channel is showing all of the support action live as it does as well. So yeah, it's a very good chance to see a lot of different categories in action. There is an additional entry for the TCR UK grid this weekend as well. Maximum Motorsports are running a 3rd car in the shape of a VW Golf for their brick car driver Tim Docker. That's been confirmed on Monday, so that's adding to the current field of around 12 to 13 cars. I'll be honest, the entry list hasn't been fully confirmed yet, but that's the general expectation that we're going to have around 12 to 13 cars again, which seems to be about the sort of season's average. There were a couple of cars missing from Castle Combe. Darrell Wilson wasn't able to take part in the races because of a broken steering rack. The Alfa Romeo of Robert Gilmore had an ECU problem, and Howard Fuller wasn't able to take part because of sponsorship issues. So as far as I'm aware, all of these guys will be back in action this Saturday at Oulton Park. So again, 12 to 13 cars on the grid, with Ollie Taylor definitely not out of the championship fight. There's quite a big gap between him and Daniel Lloyd, but Ollie's proving that he's got a handle on the new Honda, and is definitely putting it to good use, chasing down Dan's championship lead.
Yeah, a massive gap of, I think, if my maths is correct, and it almost certainly won't be, 82 points.
So when you consider that a race win is 40 points, and the pole position is 11 points. So if you have a maximum score of 91 points in a weekend, so if Ollie was to take 2 wins and pole position, and if Dan was to have a horrific weekend, which he's managed to avoid so far, it would be a much closer championship. So there's a lot of points on offer when you take into account the gap they've got.
You just jinxed him now.
I really hope not, because they all know where I am on social media. So, yeah, there is everything to play for. Lots of great drivers on the grid. There's lots of action. A lot of people say, it's been boring. It's not been exciting at all because you've got one guy winning all the races. The best guy in the best equipment with the best team, that normally happens.
Well, yeah, usually that is motorsport. The best person...
It is, yeah. I lived through the Michael Schumacher years and slept through most F1 races. So you sort of sit there and think, okay, if you've got the best equipment, you're going to do the best job you can. But, yeah, there's a lot of talented people on there. Finley Crocker, Howard Fuller, Lewis Kent, Stuart Lyons, Carl Swift, sort of name a few. The Beckman siblings, their first year in touring car racing, they're racing in the UK and in Scandinavia with the same teams to get as much experience as they can. The Alfa Romeos, Derek Palmer, Robert Gilmore, again, doing good stuff in the Alphas, with Derek Palmer finishing 4th in the second race at Castle Combe. So there's a good grid of drivers there, put my teeth in, and there is some exciting racing. So the Oulton Park International Circuit, it's a different one. It's the longest version of the circuit they're using. So again, the first thought would be you're not necessarily going to get a lot of overtaking. There's less aero on the TCR cars than there is compared to the BTCC cars. So that lends itself more to offering more chances with the overtaking side of things. And again, a lot of it's going to be down to setup as well. 30-minute races each, tyre management to take into consideration. But these guys still race as hard as they can and give as good as they get to each other. So definitely, like I say, 3 chances to see the action live, qualifying in both the races. And it's looking like it's going to be another cracking weekend of racing for them.
Yeah, there has certainly been that, I believe, initial criticism, and so there was criticism before the season even started about the how it wouldn't ever sort of match up to the touring cars, and then TCR UK came out and positioned itself as saying, well, we're not trying to rival touring cars, we're just a club championship, but it's not, never has been really, to be honest. Although it does go around and it's with the BRSCC, and it's run by the BRSCC, doesn't necessarily mean it's just a club championship. I mean, look at British PT, for example.
Yeah, I think the best way to describe TCR UK is a feeder series. It slots in the ladder below British touring cars, and that's been recognised from day one.
I understand why they wanted to downplay it on this first season, because maybe they really knew that they wasn't going to get like a massive grid to start out with, and if they thought, if they went going around saying, oh, this is going to be the next touring cars, and then they turned up to the first event with whatever it was, 10 or 15 entries, everyone would have, there would have been a laughing stock almost.
Yeah, it's like I say, the organisers know the BTCC is the biggest thing in the UK. They're not sort of missing that point at all. They know that one, but at the same time, it's another form of touring car racing that gives you that experience that you could go on to NGTC and use that further. So they're not trying to compete with it, but the interest is there. And I know there was an interview in the media with Jonathan Ashman, who's one of the championship organisers, and basically he's been quite honest and said, "Look, we are where we're expecting to be. You know, we've got the grid numbers we were looking for. That we're looking for around
lots of interest.
12 to 14." There was a lot of interest in the off season. Some of that hasn't turned up into entries, which is understandable. Lots of people show interest, but if you've got the money and the resources to back it up, then you go racing. But there's a lot of interest for next year. And something I explain to a lot of people is that at the moment, the racing is doing what it should be. It's doing the work for the championship. It's offering the spectacle, showing people what's out there, what they can do. There are lots of TCR cars on sale around the world, so it's not difficult if you have the budget to get hold of a car that's been previously used and race it with an equal chance of winning races alongside newer cars because of the whole balance of performance they have in place. There's a lot of interest for next year. You're probably not going to hear much about numbers until the season's completed and then things start shuffling around. But again, they're confident that their second season is going to be a little bit bigger than what they have. And something I've sort of said to a lot of people as well is that the current average size of entries, they've had, I think the lowest was 9 entries that raced at Castle Combe after several guys had issues during practice and qualifying. They had 14 cars entered at Brands Hatch, so that's around about the average number you've seen in TCR series around the world in their first series. So they're not doing too badly, to be honest, as far as having their first season and getting the interest there and having the drivers taking part. Tim Docker's obviously taking part now. He's been racing in Brick car for most of the year so far, so he's got experience of the car he's racing. And Stuart Lyons has already said, we're not putting any targets out there. We just wanted to go out in the car, go and have some fun, do some racing like most drivers want to do, and just see how he fares. If that leads to other entries, after Oulton Park this weekend, you've got Croft in September, and then they finish off everything at Donington in October. So, it's plenty of chances for guys to have a go, see how they feel, and if they can get budgets together for the following year, then, fair play to them if they can do it. So it's going to get there. It's his first year, lots of expectation, because obviously we all love our British touring cars. The UK as a nation loves its touring car racing, and we're all very knowledgeable about it as well. So, it was always going to have a difficult baptism, but I think it's doing pretty well, to be honest.
I think you're probably right on balance, and Stuart is listening to everything that TCR Guru says, and does he dare disagree, Stuart? You are traditionally, I think I'm right in saying, mostly just exclusively a BTCC fan, but I'd agree with exclusively, to be honest. Okay, but
after hearing what Phil has said, I agree with him that only a new series has time to grow. And I respect the heads of TCR UK for saying that British touring cars might be the goal for most of these drivers. So,
even if it does just end up being on position in itself and remains to just be a feeder series, a great ladder from club racing. As the new guy, as Phil was just saying, into BTCC I suppose the financial punch in the gut isn't so severe. Taking that step up from club racing right into BTCC, that's no bad thing either, I suppose, is it?
No, not at all. Most you often see that most of the feeder categories into the touring cars is part of the touring car calendar. Sort of like touring car weekend, with the Clios and the Ginetta Juniors and all that. Like Dan Camish getting in from the Porsche Carrera Cup GB. So obviously it's still top of the UK motorsport, but if more the merrier. I agree.
Yeah, certainly. And from your point of view, then, just being a exclusive BTCC person, having seen the furore of some BTCC fans pre-season at the emergence of this bold young TCR UK thing come along and dare even think about calling itself a touring car championship when everyone knows that there's only one real touring car championship in the UK traditionally, which is the BTCC. From your point of view then, was you expecting the TCR UK to go well from pre-season, and how has your expectations changed, if at all it has, up to now? Or is it just, did you expect it to start out badly and it remains so? Tell us what your thoughts on it.
Just speaking as sort of like an outsider of TCR UK, watching the coverage of the first race, it was Silverstone, was it, Phil?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, first 2 races at Silverstone back in March.
It seemed like it was just going to be a whole season of just walkovers by the top driver, which was Dan Lloyd and Aidan Moffat. Aidan Moffat made it a bit more interesting by running an Alfa Romeo, which we know reliability in it past a bit of an issue. And as soon as they lost Aidan Moffat, it seemed like it was on a bit of a wobble. And I imagine some hardcore British Touring Car Championship fans probably started thinking, "Oh, what's going to happen? This ain't going to last for much longer." But it's personally, I think if it works well as a feeder series, and if it does get club races up into a competitive racing session against top drivers like Dan Lloyd and whoever else is in the series, I'm all for it.
Yeah, and I actually don't have any opinions on that. TCR UK, I know what you're going to say.
Come on, Lester.
I said it earlier, in that I am just kind of a neutral, really. I do want everybody to just do well, have a great race, and put on a good show. If there's less cars to be able to do that, that's a sad thing, obviously. If there are too many cars, like maybe in BTCC, that everything just becomes a bit blasé, where you've got like 30 cars in, that becomes like over 3 races, and effectively it's a massive amount of cars and a massive amount of potential overtakes. It's potentially too much. So finding a good grid size for good action with some good drivers, and maybe TCR UK is still trying to find itself, find its own place in British motorsport. Personally, I've said this right from the very beginning, before it even started, it's not a club championship. I don't care if it's just being run by the BRSCC, and they traditionally, most of their championships are club championships. It is not. It's TCR UK, and it's a lot bigger than just a club championship, but I get why they positioned it like that to start out with. And I do think in time, if the championship organisers and Mr. Lottie plays their cards right, and they've gone about it the right way so far, I suppose. They've not made too many. I don't think they've made any sort of big mistakes, to be honest. And they were always going to sort of struggle, as I think we all knew, with entries. Having you're going to get a lot of suspicion with anyone coming in at this level, claiming to be a touring car championship. I don't know, what's this stuff all about? You know what I mean? It's,
the entry level's always been under question, because
but I think they're comparing that to BTCC, where you've got too many entries.
Yeah,
really.
That's the biggest sort of thing you notice is a lot of the fans on social media and everything. The expectation is, it didn't sort of help that a lot of outlets, apart from the championship over the winter, alluded to lots of interest that could be entries. I think at one point somebody said, there's been over 50 expressions. There's been over 50, expressions of interest.
Well, that means nothing, really. That doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, expressions of interest don't necessarily guarantee an entry. And to be honest, a lot of the fans have gone, "Oh yeah, great, 50 entries, that'd be brilliant. That'd be wonderful." The actual sort of series itself has been very modest through the whole build up to the start of the year, and saying, look, we know what we're going to have. We know how many entries we're expecting. We're keeping our expectations low. The championship's there basically for those that want to have a go. If you've got the budget, if you can't afford to do British touring cars because it is more expensive, you've got more races, you've got to work harder for sponsorship, then it's another option, and offers that more that touring car experience, that tin top experience of getting into a car that's similar, with a similar size engine, and being able to have a go at that. If you can do that for a few seasons, you build up a decent sponsor package, and then you decide, okay, I'm going to make the step up to the British Touring Car Championship. You've got that base there, then that's worked as a feeder series. the other option is you could take your car abroad, because the cars can be raced anywhere. As far as TCR cars are concerned, you can go and race in Germany, Scandinavia, Russia, the TCR Europe series. There's a whole number of series out there that run to the same regulations.
Well, generally, I mean, apart from GT racing, we're not really used to that type of culture, are we?
It's not, to be honest. Touring car racing hasn't been that way for quite some time. The two lots of regulations that have been in use around the world has either been Super 2000, which had a big explosion, and these regulation cars were part of British touring cars for a long while, and before that, Super Touring itself. So again, a big explosion of those regulations around the world, very popular regulations, and again, as we were talking off air before we started, things like the FIA Touring Car Challenge, for 3 years running, cars from international teams and drivers being run at Bathurst in Super Touring. So Super Touring, Super 2000, the biggest examples, and TCR follows that on. The fact that a lot of countries now are adopting the regulations as a main championship for touring cars, and it just offers the chance for those drivers to go and race elsewhere if they want to, or focus on their home series. So it's a big opportunity, but it's not going to be the biggest series in every country. The UK, we've got the BTCC, we know that, the championship knows that, so it's a feeder series in the UK. But somewhere like Germany, okay, you've got the DTM, biggest touring car series in Germany, works drivers that are taking part in, I think it's 18 entries currently. You're looking at 28 entries in TCR Germany, and a lot of these are club races or semi-professional races in their own right as well. So it doesn't have to be that you race in the biggest series. You can race in a TCR series, build up your experience, build up your portfolio, and then move on to something bigger if you want to. Or in some cases, like in Scandinavia, TCR Scandinavia, that's the biggest touring car series going. So, and the names you've got there, Johan Kristoffersen, Fredrik Ekblom, Robert Dahlgren, for example, all very experienced drivers, all have big touring car backgrounds that span many, many years. That's the biggest series in Scandinavia for them to race in. So I think it just depends what country you're in, what the focus is for that country, of where they see the series and how it's going to work out. So, but yeah, as we say in the UK, I see it as a possibility. You either keep racing and go for the titles, or you build up your base, you build up your experience, and then you move it, use it as a step up to the BTCC.
And of course, one thing that TCR UK has in its advantage is that it is a headline event, because it is it's not on any other bill as like a support class, which I think would probably, if it were, for example, on any other sort of support bill, it would definitely struggle to even get this far, I think. So the steps that the BRSCC have taken, along with TCR UK, positioning it as a title championship, and rightly so, because it always probably was going to be in my mind anyway, which is again why I don't think it's a club championship, because it's a title thing. It's right up there alongside in the potential prestige anyway of the British GT Championship as well. It could be something as big as that potentially. So down to what could happen this weekend then. Oulton Park, the 1 day spectacular.
I like that. That's good, isn't it? I'm going to suggest that, I think, as well.
I suppose you could be, back in time for whatever is on TV for that night. I don't know. So a match of the day or something. I don't know. Saturday night then, and so we've got and there has been some kind of big names, still, as you mentioned earlier, still competing in touring cars, like the Backmans, Dan Lloyd, of course, and Lewis Kent. A lot of people will know Howard Fuller, of course. Hopefully he'll be back at some point. Daryl Wilson, Derek Palmer of BTCC fame previously, Stuart Lyons as well. He's still mooching about, I think, or he was at Castle Coombe, I believe. Don't think Aidan Moffat's going to be returning after the Moffats.
No, Aidan's entry, the team's entry, came to an end after Knockhill, and they won't be back.
But it was full fun while it lasted, and ended spectacularly in a fallout with them over there. But yeah, so this weekend, what can we expect, Phil? What's going to happen? Predict the future. Let me know. I'm going to put a bet.
Okay, so I'm going to say that Ollie Taylor's going to continue his winning streak. I foresee wins 2 and 3 for Ollie Taylor, and even a pole position. So, because again, it's Oulton Park is a difficult track to deal with weight, we know, for British touring cars. And last time out at Castlecombe, the West Coast Racing Golfs were carrying the maximum compensation weight of 60 kilos versus the rest of the field who aren't on 0 kilos, because basically the VW Golf has been the most dominant car in the field. So I think Ollie's going to be able to take the fight to Dan again. We're going to have 2 really close races as far as a fight for the lead, and also for the remaining podium place as well. A lot of the drivers, like you were saying, that the Coopers, Carl Swift and Stuart Lyons, have been very good in race trim. They suffer a little bit in qualifying, but once they get a race set up on that car, they do really well. Carl Swift seems to be one of the guys who's been able to hold off Dan Lloyd definitely in race trim the most. So I'd love to see, Carl took his first podium at Castlecombe, so it'd be lovely to see if he can do that again, and the same for Stuart as well. Lewis Kent is always brilliant in the Hyundai, and it's a car he's learning from scratch. He didn't see the car until just before the season, and has had as much testing as he can, and taking every chance he can in every session at each circuit to understand the car more, and he's getting faster and faster. And we know the Hyundai on the world stage is one of the best cars to have. So again, Lewis is one of the ones to watch there. And as we're saying, the Beckman twins Beckman twin siblings are learning their trade. It's a slightly more difficult championship in Scandinavia, I want to say, because the results aren't as reflective. But in the UK, they're putting that knowledge to good use and doing what they can. They've had podiums between them. So, yeah, I definitely see a fight at the front between Ollie Taylor and Dan Lloyd. I think that's how the championship's going to go from here on in. And I'm definitely seeing, I'm going to predict a Lewis Kent podium in race 1.
Okay,
and I'm going to predict a Stuart Lyons podium in race 2. And then if anything changes, well, it just means they're better than me and they know what they're doing because they're actually on the track driving and doing a better job than I'm guessing. I'm also going to say Ollie Taylor's going to get his second pole position of the year as well. I think it's going to be a lot closer now that the compensation weight's involved and Ollie's had a lot more experience with that Honda.
Interesting. And Stuart, are you going to be tuning in to any of the races this weekend?
I probably might catch a highlights package on there. I probably won't watch it live, I'm afraid.
No problem, because you don't actually have to watch it live to enjoy TCR UK, because it's all streamed online for free on, I think, both TCR UK Facebook pages and the YouTube pages, and also on the BRSCC accounts as well. And highlights packages are also available on the TV as well. But yes, so you can enjoy, just to let you know, if you will be watching and streaming, not only the TCR UK, but it also has fantastically strong package of other championships, like the Volkswagen Racing Cup, for example, and also the BMW Compact Cup, and also the Mazda MX-5 Super Cup, and, of course, the brilliant, fantastically brilliant, almost headline-grabbing BRSCC Formula Ford 1600 Championship, where you can enjoy some massive grids and some amazing single-seater racing. That sounded a bit too negative. Apologies. I don't mean... what I meant to say was I enjoy Formula Ford 1600, really, and nothing against it. Phil, help. Anyway.
Yeah, so you enjoy racing, you enjoy close racing, and you enjoy close fun racing with series that have quite a few cars on the track at the same time.
Exactly, yes. Going wheel to wheel.
Fine. Yeah, there you go. I'll dig you that. I'll dig you up with the JCB afterwards. You'll be fine.
Excellent. Fantastic. So, Stuart, just tell us then how people can keep in touch with what you do online in terms of journalist stuff.
I'm run for the Checker Flag. I'm on Twitter at TCF Stuart. All first 4 letters all capitalised. That's about it.
Fair enough. Okay, and yes, the Checkered Flag website as well is where you can catch both Stuart and also Phil as well. And do we have time to read out all the various Facebook groups that you're a proud admin of? Give it a go anyway. But
okay, let's give it a go. So I am an admin on the official TCR Talk Facebook group. I'm also an admin on the TCR UK fans group. You'll also find me at the Spotters Tower, which is the Checkered Flag created rallycross group where we discuss all things about World Rallycross, British Rallycross, European Rallycross, you name it, we talk about it. You'll also find me at Touring Car Chat, where we discuss many touring car series, DTM, supercars, British touring cars, etc. On Facebook, and you'll also find my particular Facebook page of TCR Guru, where I'm sharing all things TCR, not just UK but Europe and around the world as well. As far as Twitter is concerned, you can find me on there at Phil_Kinch, where I'm talking about all things TCR and BTCC as well when that's on, enjoying that. And you've also got my dedicated Twitter account, which is at TCR Talk Blog, where again I'm sharing everything there about TCR racing around the world, and bringing the knowledge to the masses.
And strangely enough, he's not actually an admin of the Phil Kinch fan group on Facebook, but that's...
Hang on, what is this? I didn't know this. Let's find these people, these poor delusional people.
Exactly. But yes, and of course, both can also be found intermittently talking touring cars right here on Motorsport Radio as well, of which our website is motorsport.radio. Simple as that. And
brilliant.
Motorsport.radio. There you go. Not much else to say other than thank you very much for tuning in to another Touring Car Talk. You can also download this episode as an audio podcast and take us with you wherever you go, in case you're that way inclined. But thank you once again, and do subscribe and like and follow both the Checkered Flag on the old Facebooks if you haven't already, and also Motorsport Radio. Thank you very much. And we'll see you again next time with some more Touring Car Talk.
Motorsport Radio.
Hi, I'm Jonathan Ray from the Kawasaki Racing Team.
Hi, this is Nick Hamilton.
Hi, I'm Jamie Chadwick.
Hey everyone, I'm Bradley Smith.
Hi, I'm Joanne Zacco.
Hi, I'm Bradley Wright.
Hi, I'm Seb Morris.
Hi, I'm Dan Lingford from Honda Racing, British Superbike team, and this is Motorsport Radio.